Holy shit. It is hot. I'm in Houston right now, and it is 85 degrees, and it is December 30 something. This is something that you will never see in New York City. I just want to say that right now. Like, I love New York City, but like the weather in Houston is just like, during this time of the year, like I could not imagine like walking outside and it's 10 degrees or 15 degrees, whatever it is in New York right now. So it's a little hot though in Houston, but I take this over the cold. I'm not built for the cold weather. That's just not for me personally. But yeah, shout out to New York. Currently thugging in the H right now, you know what I mean? And it's been fun. I've been here for a few weeks and not really looking forward to going back, not gonna lie. I feel like, you know, one of the biggest things for me this year was just growing more as a person, growing more as an individual, you know, being 23 years old, living in New York City. You know, I'm kind of going through a weird transition period in my life right now. And I think that, you know, just watching, you know, myself and all my friends kind of go through this transitional period alongside me, I think it's been, you know, very motivating to, like, I think just, you know, seeing your friends go through and make these big jumps in their life, you know, you kind of, you know, want to celebrate them, but you also are like, you know what, I'm also waiting on my turn and when the next big moment in my life is going to be, you know what I mean? And I think we've all had our moments this year, but I think celebrating each other has been my favorite thing that I've done this year, celebrating their wins, celebrating each other, and just being there for each other, you know, during the good moments. I think these are the memories that stick with you throughout the course of your life. So something that they don't tell you, you know, when you graduate college is that, like, you know, as you continue to get older, you know, you don't have the luxury of that 19, 20-year-old metabolism where you can just wake up and not care about what you put in your body and then continue to operate and function in life, and your body is not affected by any of that stuff at all. All that stuff goes out the window the older that you get, especially once you're out of college and you start working and you can actually afford to like feed yourself like a good proper meal. One of the things that I've really like tried my hardest to be more conscious of this year, and especially over the last like 4 to 6 months, is, you know, my health and my fitness, right? I've always been someone who has been very consistent in the gym. However, I feel like once I graduated college, it became something where I became a lot more focused on work and whatever it is that I had going on, that I wasn't as consistent as I was supposed to be in the gym. And I started to feel it in my body, you know what I mean? Like I felt my body, you know, changing a little bit. I felt myself not being as active and as agile and as fit as I was, you know what I mean? And so I think around June, July, August of this year, I really buckled down and made a conscious effort to, you know, actually really take care of my fitness and my health and not treat it as something that's like optional. Really being intentional about what I put in my body. Like I still, you know, here and there I'd snack and get, you know, eat like some junk food here and there, but for the most part I try to make sure that I'm eating whole foods, home cooked meals, you know what I mean, and not just eating out all the time. It also helps you save money, especially when you're in a city like New York, like cooking and just using groceries at home versus like going to spend $20 on a meal that's not even going to be that good to begin with, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where the more you do it, the easier it gets, and it's like it becomes something that now when you go eat out, it's like you're just treating yourself. It's not like something that you're used to doing, you know what I mean? So that's something that I've been taking a lot more serious. And I've also, you know, in the gym, when I was in college, I was someone who I used to just go lift super heavy weights and not really care too much about like any other parts of my body other than like my arms, my back, and my triceps. But, you know, as I've continued to get older, you know, I think that like being more flexible in the gym, you know, trying out different workouts, working different parts of your body, yo, I think that is something that you're gonna have to eventually start to do as a growing adult and as someone who's, you know, in their early 20s, to really build, you know, a proper, you know, foundation for your body, right? If you're only working your upper body and you're ignoring the rest of your body, you're ignoring your cardio, you're ignoring, you know, legs, you're ignoring your diet, I think that's not enough as you continue to get older. And you'll start to see that, like, yeah, I am, you know, pretty strong. I can still lift the same weight, but my body is not as toned. I don't see the definition that I want to see. And it's just like my arms are just super big, but it's because, you know, you're not really taking care of your diet. You're not getting your cardio in. You're not, you know, being properly de-bloated through the stuff that you're putting in your body and the workouts that you're doing. So you're not going to see as prominent results, you know what I mean? And again, as you get older, your body starts to really rely on what you do with it and what you put inside of it, right? It's not just pure like youthful metabolism that we all had at one point in our life, you know what I mean? So yeah, again, like just taking care of my body more, fitness, health. A lot of my close friends are on that same kind of vibe. You know, they're all super into the same stuff. And so that keeps me motivated, that keeps me grounded. We all help each other stay focused and stay, you know, on the same trajectory that we're all trying to be on in terms of our body, our career, fitness, and all that good stuff. So shout out to the guys, man. Navigating corporate America. I think this is something that is an underrated topic that isn't, you know, talked about enough, especially as a young black man living in this country in 2025, 2026. Like navigating corporate America, especially if you're in the field of like tech or finance, consulting, banking. It is definitely, you know, it's not for the weak. You know, there's ups and downs, there's highs and lows. And I think that like the older that you get, the longer that you're in this space, you know, you kind of understand, you know, the different nuances and kind of how to move and operate in a way that allow you to be successful in your life, and in the career that you kind of see for yourself. Me personally, you know, just a little bit about me. I graduated college, you know, about a year and a half ago. And, you know, I've been able to, you know, work in a career in a field that I really am passionate about. And I feel like, you know, the industry that I'm in allows me to be successful because it is something that, you know, I actually do have genuine interest and passion for. You know, it's allowed me to see, you know, my job, and it's allowed me to see work as something that is, you know, actually fun to do and kind of interesting. Coming out of college, I, you know, started my career as a product manager, working at a tech company that operates in the sports and live entertainment industry. And that industry in particular is something that I've always been passionate about. You know, I played basketball back in the day, and, you know, I'm a huge music fan. So I think that, you know, working in that industry as a product manager has allowed me to see work as not just like a job, but something that actually I enjoy doing. And I feel like, you know, being a product manager, you get a chance to really understand how, you know, products are built end to end. And as someone who wants to be an entrepreneur in the future, I think that gives me the experience that I'm looking for in terms of like actually understanding holistically how to launch and build a successful product. And I think that that's what I've been able to take to a lot of the things that I'm doing in the side, right? Like I think the app that I'm building right now is, you know, I've had to do all phases of the product lifecycle to get it to where it's at right now. And I think that, you know, again, because I've had to do that in my day-to-day job consistently for a long time now, doing it in a personal for a personal project is like kind of second nature at this point, and it's just following the same processes, just without like the funding and all the stuff that you get with like being with a big company. But it also forces you to, you know, be scrappy and like think outside the box and be creative in how you approach things and how you approach conversations and in how you engage with people who might not be as familiar with your product, right? Like I think starting something from scratch is a lot more difficult than having this huge name brand and company logo behind you. And so I think that, you know, again, that's why I'm so passionate about startups and kind of side projects, whatever it is that you're doing like on your own, because it really forces you to think, you know, more creatively and how to like, you know, get someone to want to use your product without a ton, like hundreds and thousands of millions of dollars of marketing and ad budget to kind of back that initiative. You know what I mean? So yeah, doing my own thing this year, building my app, building my startup, has been super fun. I think, you know, I have a great team of people around me. We're super passionate about what we're doing with this app, and more vids on that coming soon. Stay tuned for that. But for now, you know, we still have a lot of work to do with the actual product, but we're making a lot of good headway, and I'm super excited about where we're going to end up with that. So yeah, more details on that coming soon. The last thing that I do want to touch on that, you know, I think 2025 has really taught me is the importance of, you know, maintaining, you know, your close relationships, right? Like having really good friends, having, you know, supportive family members, and just a good support system and community around you is probably one of the most underrated, you know, aspects of life. You know what I mean? Like, especially being, you know, a young person in your 20s, you know, having that strong, solid community around you to just get through the tough times and the bullshit that life's gonna throw at you is like invaluable, you know? There are times where, you know, my friends were there for me through some of the darkest periods of my life, through some ups and downs that I've been through, this past year. And I don't think I would have been able to get through it, without those people in my life. You know what I mean? And so that is something that, I've definitely learned this year. Just make sure to cherish the people in your life. Make sure to hold them near and dear to your heart. And don't take any of that shit for granted. You know what I mean? Because good people don't come around often. And if you have good people in your life, make sure to pour into them just as much as they pour into you, because these are going to be the people that uplift you and celebrate your wins as you continue to progress and move on and move up in your life. Someone that you have a lot of love for, you might not be able to see them or speak to them as often as you want to, and that could be a friend, it could be a romantic partner, it could be a sibling, you know what I mean? And I think that this year I've really learned that lesson that when people are around that you love, that are close, and you're in proximity with somebody and you're spending time with them, and you know what I mean, you're doing a lot of things with these people, you know what I mean, people that you really genuinely love and care for. You really need to cherish those moments, you know what I mean, because they don't always happen. Sometimes as a young person, when you graduate college, you might not have access to a lot of the people that you do love in your life. You might not be able to see them as often as you want to because you're in a different city. You might be navigating different phases of your life. You might be going through a different phase. Your friends might be going through a different phase. Someone that you're in a romantic relationship might be going through a different phase. And so as someone in their early 20s, you guys are all going through this period in your life where you're trying to figure your own shit out career-wise, but you're also trying to navigate these relationships, and shit just gets crazy. So when you do have the opportunity to be in the space of someone that you love and care about, whether it's just a hangout or you're on a date with somebody that you're in a relationship with, that you're dealing with, really cherish those moments, because they don't always happen. And after some time goes by and you don't get that experience again with that person, all you have now is just memories. And if you didn't really live in the moment and cherish that moment when it was happening, you're gonna feel the loss, and you're gonna just sit there and be like, damn, I missed that time period, I missed these people, I wish I took more care of them, I wish I told them I loved them a little bit more when I was around them.